This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, so as you heard, this meeting is being recorded. So yeah, as usual, if you don't want to be in the recording, you can just let us know. And when you have questions, you can just open your microphone, but don't show your face. And yeah, so yeah, thanks a lot to everyone for being here, and welcome to this second session of our Semiosalong series. And tonight we have sort of different kind of dynamics because we will have three presenters. So we will try to have to give each presenter around 40 minutes, and so we will have like 35 minutes presentation and then some time for questions. And yeah, and our first presenter is Heidi Piva from Tartu University. She's an MA student there. She also has a background in graphic design, and some of you maybe know her already from Thessaloniki. She was there in the World Congress. So yeah, very promising student, and she will talk to us about very. I think we were all really looking forward for her presentation because she will be talking about flat earthers. So it's a great topic. So yeah, I think Heidi, we can leave it to you now, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction and also the invitation. I'm very happy to be here. And I would like to apologize to those who came in a bit early and saw me testing my slides and got spoiled on basically the whole presentation. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure that the slides would work fine. I will attempt once again to share my screen. And okay, hopefully you all can see my slides. Right, I would like to ask you, those of you who want to do so, to switch to your split screen view or press escape so that you don't see the slides fully on your screen, so that you are able to also see my camera, because my slides are not, I don't have much stuff on the slides, and I'm afraid that just staring at it might get less interesting than if you would be staring at me speaking. So it feels more like a conversation. I don't know. So if you want to switch the view. As you can see from the title of my presentation, and also the very kind introduction that I got, I will be talking about the modern flat earth movement. Yes, it exists. It is a real thing. It's not a parody. It's not a joke. I mean, it is a joke, but not for many people. This is one of the objects that I decided to analyze in my master's thesis. And when I first looked at it, I felt this need to ask myself, where did this idea come from? Flat earthers themselves often quote the ancient peoples, but as you may have read on my abstract, this belief that ancient people thought the earth was flat is a myth, actually. So where did this idea come from? Okay. Jeffrey Burton Russell, Professor Emeritus of History at the University of California, wrote this book entitled Inventing Flat Earth. Although he very briefly quotes the modern flat earth movement, the focus of his book is precisely on this illusion that ancient people thought the earth was flat. He calls this the flat error. And the objective of his book is to answer, where did the flat error come from and why does it persist? Why do we still believe the ancients thought the earth was flat? And why do we teach that in schools? I don't know about some of you, but I remember when I went to school back in the late 1990s and early 2000s, we still learned that the ancients thought the earth was flat. And why does that happen? So the first thing that Russell states is that Historians know that from the 4th century before Christ, almost all the Greek philosophers maintained the sphericity of the earth. The Romans adopt the Greek spherical views, and then several Greek and Arabic works were translated into Latin in the 12th century, meaning that early medieval writers also agreed with spherical views. During the Middle Ages, Christian theology showed little, if any, tendency to dispute sphericity, simply because the Bible contains no clear description of the physical shape and size of the earth or the universe, as observed by St. Augustine. Sure, among the uneducated, a variety of vague ideas seem to have been common, but among scholars, there was a consensus that the earth was spherical for a long, long time. And then when the increasingly commercial economy of the 15th century prompted the navigation explorations of new markets, the knowledge of geography was fully embraced, not just as theoretical pursuits, but as practical, useful, and necessary for the sake of exploring these new markets, as well as for the older goal of making more converts to Christianity. So no, Columbus was not the first guy to prove that the earth was a ball. He lived in a time in which geography acuity and was actually a common and valued knowledge. However, during the 19th century, things started to get complicated. It became increasingly common to opt for scientific realism or positivism, and Christian epistemology was identified with an outmoded, obsolete, medieval worldview. And because that worldview is so foreign to the modern progressivist worldview, it was deemed a superstition. So it came to seem natural, obvious, even certain that because they were religious, medieval people were superstitious. And so they must have believed in something as foolish as flat earth. The very few actual medieval flat earthers were emphasized and endlessly requoted to confirm this prejudice, while the bulk of the evidence of all the people who knew the earth was spherical was ignored. And according to Russell, this error persists. For centuries, we insisted on propagating this illusion that the ancients didn't know the real shape of the earth because of what Russell calls a combination of relativism and the idea of progress. So Russell states, true relativism would assume that no worldview is better than another. True progressivism would assume that worldviews are moving closer and closer to a predetermined and preferred goal. The two beliefs are mutually exclusive. The assumption of the superiority of our views to that of other cultures is the most stubborn remaining variety of ethnocentrism. If we were not so ethnocentrically convinced of the ignorance or stupidity of the Middle Ages, we would not fall into the flat error. The hope that we are making progress towards a goal which is not defined and about which there is no consensus leads us to undervalue the past in order to convince ourselves of the superiority of the present. So despite relativism, despite knowing that every worldview is a human construct and that paradigms of knowledge are precarious and inevitably change, we still have a progressive view that drives us to fall into the flat error. Now enters the modern flat earth movement. If you don't care much about your mental health and go in search of flat earth material, which is what I've been doing for the past months, don't worry, I have a good therapist. If you go read the things that flat earthers write, and wait, I lost my mouse. There, the things that flat earthers write, watch their videos on YouTube, search their forums, you will notice quite a lot of referencing to the flat error. Although obviously they don't call it that, since for them it is true. But what I find most interesting between flat earth discourse and what has been presented by Russell is that basically, according to him, 19th century scholars invented the illusion that the ancients believed the earth was flat to say, look how smart we are. And people in the past were so stupid. So humanity is progressing. We are better today than we were ever before. while the flat earth movement insists on the opposite, which is the ancients knew the truth because they weren't being manipulated by the government and the communists and the man like people are today, or as they like to say, the sheeple, who are so stupid and gullible. The ancients were free from manipulation. They were the ones who truly knew the truth. So isn't that interesting? This sort of regressive rather than progressive view of humanity's search for knowledge. At least for me, it's merely one of the many, many aspects of the flat earth movement that I find very peculiar. But anyway, where did this movement come from? Let's have an overview. I gathered this information from works of Shadowald and Garwood, and surprisingly enough, the Flat Earth Society webpage in their history section, which to my astonishment is quite accurate in the historical descriptions of the movement, all things considered. Of course, there are some inaccurate things, but mostly it agrees with the scientific papers I read on the origins of the movement. It all started in England in 1849 with the publication of a 16-page pamphlet called Zetetic Astronomy, a description of several experiments which prove that the surface of the sea is a perfect plane. And then a book entitled Earth is Not a Globe by someone who called themselves Parallax. I swear that's true. Sounds like a comic book villain from the 60s and all, but that's how he named himself. Turns out Parallax was a man named Samuel Burley Rowbotham, a self-educated inventor from Sheffield. Inventor. His thinking was based upon a criticism of scientific methodology and theory-led reasoning. He founded a philosophical system he called zetetic astronomy or zeticism, which comes from the Greek verb zetetikos, meaning to seek, to search, or to inquire, because he sought only facts and left mere theories and such to the likes of Copernicus and Newton, you know, those guys. Only zetetic inquiry could discover nature's secrets. Experiments should be tried and facts collected freely without being shaped in advance by theoretical assumptions. So for the next 35 years, Rowbotham toured England, attacking the spherical system in public lectures and preaching his theory to large audiences in mechanics institutes and assembly halls. In his first book, Rowbotham, or Parallax, declared that the Earth is an immovable circular plane surrounded by ice. The North Pole is in the center, and there is no South Pole, just a 150-foot wall of ice at what he called the southern limit. The sun, moon, and other planets circle the Earth at an altitude of 700 miles. The sun is only 4,000 miles from London, and the moon is self-luminous. It shines like the sun. Rowbotham also had explanations for the heavens, the circumnavigation of the Earth, the seasons, sunrises and sunsets as optical illusions caused by atmospheric refraction, and the zetetic law of perspective, which also explains why ships apparently vanish over the horizon when sailing out to sea. If you are also crazy and interested in knowing more about early Parallaxian theory, as they call it, I would suggest reading their section on the Flat Earth Society webpage. It can be a lot of fun depending on how you choose to see other people's insanity. Well, after Parallax, Flat Earth theory spread to the United States, especially in the town of the state of Illinois, where a Catholic Apostolic Church founder named John Alexander Dowie started to promote flat earth theory. Then in the 1960s, the International Flat Earth Society was formally founded by a Samuel Shenton, an English conspiracy theorist and lecturer. When Shenton died in 1971, Charles Johnson from California became president of the International Flat Earth Society, who along with his wife, Marjorie Johnson, actively promoted the society through newsletters, articles, and lectures to youth clubs and student groups until its membership increased over 3,000 people. When the Johnsons passed away in the late 1990s, the society went through several years of blessed inactivity, only to be resurrected in 2004 by Daniel Shenton, a namesake of the founder Samuel Shenton. But as far as I can gather, they're unrelated. Or are they? No, I'm just kidding. No conspiracy theories here. Daniel Shenton is to this day the society's president, and he is located in Hong Kong currently. By his side, we have an Irish vice president named Michael Wilmore and an American secretary named John Davis, who, according to his own description on the society's website, quote, has been interviewed by several news sources, including the BBC, Fox News, radio, print, and more. He's a software engineer, a computer science, and enjoys epistemology and mathematics, end quote. He's also the person behind the Facebook page that we will be looking at soon, which is why I made sure to read his biography. On the About section of the Society's webpage, we may find their core values. The mission of the Flat Earth Society is to promote and initiate discussion of flat Earth theory. It's funny that they say theory because Parallax was so against theory, right? But, well, here we are. As well as archive flat Earth literature. Our forums act as a venue to encourage free thinking and debate. The Flat Earth Society mans the guns against oppression of thought and the globularist lies of a new age. Standing with reason, we offer a home to those wayward thinkers that march bravely on with reason and truth in recognizing the true shape of the earth, flat. Come join us in our forums and get started learning about the greatest lie ever told. On other sections of the website, mainly the blog posts written by the secretary, it is very common to find that focus that started all the way back with Robotham on facts, reason, the truth, but also evidence and first-hand accounts. It seems, to me at least, that flat Earth thinking relies heavily on truth as that which can be directly perceived by the senses, especially the visualizations. It is weird, but we'll get there. Those of you who know a little bit about philosophy may recognize this as what is known as direct realism or naive realism. In a nutshell, I might be oversimplifying it, but just for the sake of this presentation, direct realism entails first, the understanding that there exist mind-independent objects of experience. Objects that do not depend upon being perceived in order to exist, which are called ordinary objects. And then we have presentation. That is, the idea that we directly apprehend objects, they are given to us or directly presented to the mind or unmediated even. So, perceptual experiences are direct perceptual presentations of their objects. And if direct perceptual presentation of an ordinary object is a way of directly perceiving it, then this gives us direct realism, meaning we can directly perceive ordinary objects. All this to say, what we see is what there is. If the horizon seems flat, it's because it is. We can see that in the frequently asked questions section of their website, where they state there is no visible curvature to the horizon, even from airplanes, as evidence that the Earth is flat. You can't see the curve, so there is no curve. But wait, what about this post here? The link in the bottom says, man pledges to send flat earther into space to prove the planet is round. And the reply from the society is that this isn't going to end how they expect it will. A flat Earth would appear round from space due to it being a closed flat surface in curved space. Let's set aside the logic behind this argument, which is bonkers and unintelligible, and focus instead on this part that says it would appear. This means that flat earthers, as much as they do rely on first-hand accounts and evidence, or at least what they understand evidence to be, as something that you can directly perceive with your eyes, even though they rely on that as argumentation, they understand and use, when deemed relevant, the idea of illusion. In philosophy, they call it the argument from illusion, which states that in illusory experiences, we are not directly presented with ordinary objects. Of course, the argument doesn't stop there. It serves to disprove direct realism altogether by reaching the conclusion that we are never directly presented with ordinary objects in the first place. But for flat earthers, when it is interesting to them, when it serves to support their ideas, they may apply direct realism logics, appealing to the direct perception of ordinary objects. And at the same time, if it contributes to their views to think of something as illusion, they may apply that as well. And we can discuss this further during our Q&A, although I am not a philosopher, but I still think this is an interesting way to see flat earth thinking. Another way to look at it, and to be honest, this is actually what my research is about, and it is the most obvious approach, is to look at the whole thing through the lenses of conspiracy theories. Because for all our talk of reason, it is hard to find logic in the arguments presented by flat earthers. And believe me, I've tried. So what is left is to look for the meaning-making processes and mechanisms involved in flat earth discourse. And for this, I'm mainly turning to this book, Strategic Conspiracy Narratives, a Semiotic Approach, by Madison and Wenzel from our very own semiotics department here at the University of Tartu. According to Madison and Wenzel, one of the main functions of conspiracy theories is to offer an organizing and meaningful narrative to the contingency of history. So we may ask the Flat Earth Society, what is the narrative you want us to believe? What is the crux of this conspiracy, of the biggest lie ever told, as you say? Why would people go through all these great lengths in order to fool us into believing the Earth is a globe when it is actually, as the society states, flat? One of the questions in, again, the FAQ of their webpage is exactly this. Why would people lie about the shape of the Earth? It's an obvious question, isn't it? I think this is why they put it on their frequently asked questions. And their answer is to maintain legitimacy. During the Cold War, we faked the moon landing. Shortly after, they realized the reason they could not reach the moon was due to the flatness of the Earth. They were stuck in a lie. Who are they? And had to continue it or lose legitimacy of our governments. Even today, we would still hold on to this lie due to the role science plays in our ruling government. To hide the truth of the Bible, to gain power and money. By siphoning off the space budgets and denying the world the resources of the Antarctic, they gain a considerable amount of power and wealth. So here we see a great example of what Madison and Wenzel are talking about when they say that conspiracy narratives are made specific by their particularly strong modeling capacity that allows them to embrace events from different points of time and space in their explanations, to weave symbols and sources that seem totally incompatible at first into a synthetic whole. They link the Cold War to landing being faked and maintaining of government legitimacy, and how science with a capital S rules the government, and also how this is connected to hiding the truth from the Bible. And I don't think it's a stretch to also link the idea of government legitimacy to the third topic of siphoning space budgets and keeping the Antarctic resources. And again, as Madison and Wenzel state, a special characteristic of the code text, it's the second, if you guys are reading with me, it's the second quote. A special characteristic of the code text of conspiracy theories is that the sketching of discrete meaning relations is always submitted to non-discrete logic of signification that is associative and based on analogies. The good old everything is connected, even the things that are very much not connected. To illustrate even further how this is observable in the Flat Earth movement, I separated another post from their Facebook page. And here we have a link that they shared, which states, What was that glowing orb Trump touched in Saudi Arabia? Along with a picture that I hope everyone can see. And above, the society states. We'll just leave this here. Hint, it's a globe. Oh, so Trump is touching a globe in Saudi Arabia. You see how everything is connected in this conspiracy. Do you see the connections, the strings? If you're not a conspiracy theorist, you surely do not see the connections. But with this very powerful modeling capacity, flat earthers can see these very much discrete, unrelated elements and somehow drive meaning from them. And the meaning is that there are these powerful, highly organized, dark forces of evil that are responsible for everything bad that ever happens. And if you pay attention, you will be able to see them pulling the strings, which is the first step to taking back control from these evil authorities. The discourse of conspiracy theories, Madison and Wenzel write, displays its specific function confirming social ties. The semantic value of information transmitted by conspiracy theories is relatively minimum. So the connection itself becomes more significant and the words more redundant. They repeat themselves a lot. The more I read their posts on social media, the more I see these repetitions of the same half a dozen statements. And in fact, it becomes clear how the words don't matter much. It's the connections. Very unclear, vague connections most of the time, like this one from the post that I just showed. They just left that here, hence it's a globe. They're not saying much. Where is the connection? Explain that to me. They don't, because it's not important. It's not the words that are important. So this is perfectly compatible with what is described on this book. All right. I don't have much more time, so I'm going towards some concluding remarks that hopefully will tie up the point of this presentation. According to Leone, it can be said that one of the main causes for the current popularity of conspiracy theories is the fear and confusion accompanying current times. We are seeing economic crisis entailing major disruptions of the labor market, massive unemployment, the reconfiguration of social and communicative relations through the rapid evolution of unprecedented digital media, the shifting of political models, and above all, the radical change of the meaning of social relations, not only those among people, but also those among facts. When the social semiotic system of ties that binds the elements of reality together and shapes them into a more or less coherent semiosphere starts to disintegrate, the result is often the emerging of a myriad of ideological contrapositions that feed, in their turn, the various levels and meta-levels of conspiratorial thought. In much similar manner, Butler and Knight also assign this obsession with conspiracy theories to our contemporary inability to see how everything fits together socially, politically, and economically, probably because they don't. Failing to deal with that, conspiracy theories are not a mere symptom of a delusional mindset, but rather are an allegory at the level of form rather than content of the complex social and economic changes of globalization that cannot be understood in any straightforward way. It's people's way to try to make sense out of the mess that is reality today. The flat earth movement, as I see it, is not just about what shape the earth has. It is also about this underlying feeling that there are forces in power who want to control and deceive and carry out evil deeds. It's about powerlessness in the face of these evils, or not wanting to feel powerless, not wanting to feel like you don't understand the world, because knowledge is power. Knowing the truth is a comfort. And I believe in this is reflected on the modeling of Earth, on the zetetic model, as they call it, because in their view, the Earth is stationary and the sun circles around the Earth. We are the center. We are not merely a random blue speck, exactly like countless of others floating in empty, meaningless space, fated to be swallowed by our own star in some billions of years. Just in the same sense that things do not just occur randomly. Trump just doesn't touch a globe in Saudi Arabia. There is an underlying narrative. Everything is connected. I separated a very short video from Mark Sargent, who is one of the leading proponents and recruiters for the Flat Earth movement in the United States and Canada, and all around the plane, as he states it. Let's watch it.
For the rest of the scientific community, I come bearing a message. You've taken what should have been simple observations and twisted them to suit your needs and make us feel small. We're not small, and we're not an accident. In fact, we are the new scientists. For the rest of the...
Okay. We are not small, and we are not an accident. We are not powerless. In fact, we are the new authority. So the flat Earth map, the synthetic model that you see on the screen, is not just a mismodel of Earth, but it is also a product of the flat Earth movement itself, of the narratives they believe, which reflects not just how a portion of humanity interprets our place in the cosmos, but how these people feel towards life, how they make sense of the world, not just in a planetary astronomical sense, but in a day-to-day sense of the space that surrounds us, where we are inserted, where life happens, chaotically so. So it turns out the terror of meaninglessness, of falling off the edge of knowledge, of not understanding how things work and why they do, is greater than the imagined fear of falling off the edge of the earth. And so people would prefer to believe an absurd than to be left uncertain in the darkness. Thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to hearing feedback and questions and whatever you have to say. And that was it from me. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Heidi. And so we have time for questions. And Yin, yes. You there? Okay. Oh, maybe it was just clapping. Okay. So questions from.
Or
Yeah.
comments. It doesn't have to be questions, it can be comments.
Yes.
Is it on? Hello. Thank you very much. Excellent presentation. I understand that you're a master's student over there, so setting an excellent example, not just for the students there, but also for the students who are with us here in the room. I might ask something a little extra about your feeling about actual conspiracies and the use of the words conspiracy theory in order to delegitimize real conspiracies. Any thoughts about that?
Okay, so the word conspiracy theory is very interesting because although many people see it as a bad thing, it has a connotation as something illegitimate. Many authors do agree that conspiracy theories are necessary for a democratic society because they offer a counterpoint. So it is important to acknowledge the side of conspiracy theories as something important, relevant, and healthy for society. And I think the question of calling something that is true, calling it a conspiracy in order to, like when Trump says, "Oh, that's fake news," right? It's a more deep matter because we are dealing with post-truth, right? So using conspiracy theories to just delegitimize or make something less relevant, I don't think it's something that happens just with conspiracy theories. You can use fake truth, you can use just lie, that is a lie. So, it's something that happens. It happens with most other things. But I think what is important here is how we are dealing with truth now. Is this post-truth regime that we're living in, where things don't matter much if they're true or not. I don't know if that answered your question.
No, it's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you.
Hi. You don't know me. I have a question though.
You guys don't know him.
My name is Onias Dixon. Hi, Tyler. I have a question. So Heidi, you, I I noticed that a lot of the resources that you, or not a lot, but Facebook has a good amount of information on this particular flat Earth movement, and you were able to leverage that in order to talk to your thesis. I learned a lot about this event through Facebook. Is this a conspiracy theory?
Sorry,
Are we conspiracy? Are we? I learned
but at the end, could you just repeat what you said?
I learned a lot of information about this event, this talk on Facebook.
Huh.
Is this conspiratorial? And if not, are we participating in a conspiracy theory? Are we theorizing in a conspiratorial frame? Or what differentiates what I learned about this event on Facebook from what you learned about that event on Facebook without having done any more research? Why would I be provided with conspiracy on the platform of Facebook that looks just like something that is not a conspiracy, if we're assuming that we're not actually in on the conspiracy or whatever?
Okay, so there are many ways that you can define what is a conspiracy theory, and it also changes over time. So one thing that I found that I think is necessary is that if we're talking a conspiracy theory, we're talking a conspiracy theory today, and how we understand it today in the regime, in the system that we are living on.
Right.
And even so, that we have many times what the framework that I choose to work with, and is one that I dominate, so I cannot speak of the others, is this one of strategic conspiracy narratives that entails this continuous non-discreteness modeling capacity. So it's this idea of connecting discrete elements. So what differentiates a conspiracy theorist from a non-conspiracy theorist is precisely this capacity to connect very discrete elements that are not connected. So I would believe that the difference of someone learning something about something that is happening, it can be flat Earth, it can be climate change denial, anti-vax. There are so many. Is how this narrative is told, because they don't offer explanations for connections. They just point to the connections, and I think this is what we could probably use to discriminate a conspiracy theory from an actual something that is going on. We can search for the explanations for these connections. If there are no explanations, this is conspiracy theory.
But I'm sorry, by they do you mean the author of the particular conspiracy theory / or Facebook page that I'm referencing, or Facebook and how it's presented? Because there are two levels, right?
Yeah, the matter of the author is very complicated in a conspiracy theory because it's propagated by so many people. So it's difficult to point to an author, like who came up with an anti-vax. So that's why in my thesis, I decided to select objects, because when it comes to this conspiracy theory, to this web page and this Facebook, I know who the author is. The guy that I read the bio, the one who spoke to BBC and Fox News. I know that is the author. And when I'm talking about climate change, I know that that guy is talking about it. So when I say they, it can be the person who is writing. It can be like if it's a group that is writing it, but it's very complicated to point to an author when it comes to a whole movement of people.
Got it. I appreciate your response. I have a book recommendation. I'll send it directly to you in the chat.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I am just starting, so it's not like I completely dominate the subject because I'm just starting right now to write this thesis. Thank you. Got it.
Very good. So we have time for one small question and answer, if there is. Okay. Well, in any case, Heidi, it was really great presentation, and
thank you.
And now we will move to our